You're standing at the edge of a snowfield, and in front of you is something the size of a school bus, covered in fur, with tusks longer than your entire body. You have a sharpened stick. That's it. No rifle, no truck, no backup plan if this goes wrong. And somehow, you and a handful of other people are about to try to kill it. This isn't a nightmare. This was Tuesday, for thousands of years of human history. Ancient humans didn't just hunt animals. They hunted animals that could crush them without even trying. Mammoths, woolly rhinos, giant bison with horns spans wider than a doorway. Creatures 10, sometimes 20 times their own body weight. And they didn't have the luxury of modern weapons. They had wood, stone, fire, and each other. So the real question isn't just how they pulled this off. It's why anyone would even attempt it in the first place. Let's start with the size gap, because it's genuinely hard to overstate. A woolly mammoth could weigh up to 6 tons. An adult human, even a strong, well-fed one, weighs maybe 1/10 of a ton. That's not a fair fight. That's not even close to a fair fight. If you lined up 10 grown men and stacked them, you might approach the mass of a single mammoth, and none of those 10 men would be armored, tusked, or capable of trampling you into the permafrost. And yet the fossil record, the butchery sites, the spear points embedded in ancient bone, all of it tells the same story, over and over, across continents. Humans hunted these animals, successfully, repeatedly, for tens of thousands of years. So here's the uncomfortable truth hiding underneath that fact. This wasn't a fair fight because it was never supposed to be one. Ancient humans weren't trying to overpower a mammoth through strength. They were trying to outthink it, out-organize it, and outlast it. And that shift, from brute force to strategy, might be one of the most important survival decisions our species ever made. Picture the actual hunt for a second, because the mechanics matter here. You don't walk up to a 6-ton animal and stab it. That's suicide, not strategy. Instead, early human groups relied on something far more calculated: terrain manipulation. Archaeologist Gary Haynes has spent decades studying mammoth kill sites, and his research points to a consistent pattern. Hunters didn't chase mammoths into the open. They drove them into places where the landscape itself became a weapon. Narrow ravines, boggy wetlands where heavy legs would sink, steep drop-offs where a single misstep meant a broken limb. The animal's own size, the thing that made it dangerous, became the thing that trapped it. A 6-ton body sinking into mud isn't a threat anymore. It's stuck. And a stuck mammoth, however terrifying, is suddenly something a coordinated group with spears and patience can actually handle. This is where the second piece comes in, and it's just as important as the terrain. None of this worked without serious coordination. You couldn't do this alone. You couldn't even do this with 2 or 3 people. Evidence from major kill sites, places where dozens of mammoth remains show up in a single location, suggests these were group efforts involving planning roles. Some people were responsible for driving the animal in the right direction, shouting, waving fire, making noise to control its panic and movement. Others waited in position with spears, ready the moment the animal was vulnerable. Someone almost certainly tracked weather and ground conditions in advance, since a hunt on solid frozen ground looked completely different from a hunt during a spring thaw when the earth turned soft. This wasn't a chaotic ambush. It was closer to a military operation, built entirely on trust, communication, and everyone understanding their job well enough to execute it without hesitation. Now let's talk about the weapon itself, because sharpened stick massively undersells what ancient humans actually developed. Early hunting spears weren't crude at all. Some of the oldest known wooden spears, discovered at a site called Schöningen in Germany, date back roughly 300,000 years, and they show deliberate, sophisticated design. Weighted and balanced like a javelin, carved with a point that could punch through thick hide. These weren't random sticks grabbed off the ground. They were engineered tools, refined generation after generation through trial, failure, and death, until they worked well enough to take down something that outweighed the hunter by a factor of 60 or more. Later, humans developed something even more clever: the spear thrower, sometimes called an atlatl. It's a simple lever, essentially an extension of the human arm, but that small mechanical advantage meant a spear could be launched with dramatically more force and speed than a bare-armed throw. Suddenly, a hunter didn't need to get dangerously close to a wounded, panicking mammoth. They could strike from a greater distance, land a serious wound, and retreat before the animal could react. It's a small piece of technology, but it fundamentally changed the math of the hunt. Distance meant survival. Here's where the story gets genuinely strategic, though, and this is the part most people never think about. Ancient hunters weren't trying to kill a mammoth in one perfect strike. They couldn't. No single spear thrust was reliably lethal against an animal that size. Instead, the goal was often to wound repeatedly and retreat, then wait. Researcher John Speth has studied how ancient big-game hunting likely worked from a physiological angle, and one theory his research supports is brutally patient. Multiple wounds, even non-fatal ones, combined with blood loss and exhaustion, could weaken a massive animal over hours, sometimes longer. The hunt wasn't a single dramatic clash. It was a slow, grinding war of attrition, where the human's advantage wasn't power, it was time, patience, and the willingness to keep showing up. Think about what that requires psychologically. You strike, and then you wait, watching an enormous wounded animal that could still kill you in one motion, trusting that persistence will eventually tip the scale in your favor. That's not raw aggression. That's discipline under extreme, sustained risk. And that risk was very real. This wasn't hunting with a guaranteed happy ending. Skeletal evidence from ancient human remains across multiple sites shows healed fractures, crushed bones, injuries entirely consistent with large animal encounters gone wrong. Some hunters clearly survived close calls. Others almost certainly didn't survive at all. Every single hunt was a genuine gamble with your own life on the table, every time. So why take that risk at all? Why not just stick to smaller, safer prey? This is where researcher Nicole Waguespack's work becomes genuinely fascinating. Her research on ancient hunting economics suggests something counterintuitive. Despite the danger, megafauna hunting may have actually made more practical sense than chasing smaller animals. A single successful mammoth kill could provide an enormous amount of meat, fat, hide for shelter and clothing, bone for tools, even tusks for construction material. One kill could feed and equip an entire group for weeks, sometimes longer, especially through brutal winters when smaller game became scarce or simply impossible to find. Run the numbers. Hunting 10 rabbits takes 10 separate hunts, 10 separate risks, 10 separate chances of a hunter getting injured, with comparatively little reward each time. One successful mammoth hunt, despite the danger involved in that single high-stakes event, could outproduce all of that combined. In a brutal, resource-scarce Ice Age environment, that math mattered. A single, very dangerous risk sometimes made more sense than many small, less dangerous ones, if the payoff was large enough to offset the danger. There's also something happening here that goes beyond simple calorie math, something almost cultural. A successful mammoth hunt wasn't just about food. It reinforced the entire structure of the group. Everyone had contributed. Everyone had trusted each other with their lives, under pressure, and it worked. That's not just a meal. That's proof the group functions. That the coordination holds up under the worst possible conditions. That kind of shared, high-stakes success likely strengthens social bonds in ways smaller, individual, lower-risk hunts never could. Now here's a detail that tends to surprise people. This wasn't unique to one region or one time period. Evidence of megafauna hunting shows up across multiple continents, involving different massive prey species entirely. In parts of the world, humans hunted giant ground sloths, animals that could stand taller than a grown man on their hind legs. In others, ancient humans targeted enormous bison species with horn spans wide enough to gore a hunter in a single motion if the timing went even slightly wrong. Different animals, different landscapes, completely different climates. But the underlying strategy stayed remarkably consistent. Terrain, coordination, patience, and calculated repeated risk. That consistency tells you something important. This wasn't an isolated fluke that happened to work once in one place. It was a repeatable, teachable strategy, refined and passed down deliberately across generations and across an enormous span of geography. Someone had to teach the next generation exactly how to read a herd's movement, exactly where the ground would give way underfoot, exactly when to strike, and when to hold back and simply wait. That knowledge didn't happen by accident. It was preserved deliberately, because losing it meant starvation for everyone depending on it. And there's a sobering flip side to all of this success worth sitting with for a moment. Some researchers have pointed to intensive, sustained megafauna hunting as one likely contributing factor in the eventual extinction of several large Ice Age species. Human hunting pressure, combined with dramatic shifting climate conditions at the end of the Ice Age, appears to have pushed several massive animal populations past a point they simply couldn't recover from. The same strategic brilliance that let ancient humans punch so far above their own weight class may have also permanently reshaped the entire ecosystem around them, whether that was ever the intention or not. So when you look at a museum skeleton of a woolly mammoth today, or see one rendered in a documentary, you're looking at more than just an extinct animal. You're looking at the direct result of a species that figured out something genuinely profound, that raw physical power isn't actually the deciding factor in a fight for survival. Strategy is. Patience is. Trust in the people standing right beside you when everything is on the line. Ancient humans never became stronger than the animals around them. They never grew tusks or claws, or the raw mass to physically overpower a mammoth in a straight fight. What they built instead was something far more dangerous, in the best possible sense of that word. The ability to plan together, communicate under extreme pressure, and calculate risk with genuine precision, even when the stakes were their own lives on the line. That instinct never actually left you either. Maybe you'll never face down a 6-ton animal with a spear, but that same underlying pattern, sizing up something that looks impossible, breaking it down into a plan, leaning on people you trust to pull it off together, is baked directly into how your brain still solves enormous problems today. You didn't inherit tusks. You didn't inherit raw size or strength. You inherited the strategy.
If you liked this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Hit that notification bell for more. See you on the next one.